So recently, we saw the release of the latest season of The Dragon Prince with Book 5, Ocean. And coming off the back of what I think was a pretty lackluster season 4, I think the show really did need a big win. I remember that there was that huge wait as a result of COVID and the fact that they had to do a lot of writing and development because it was going to be a bit of a fresh arc, a new story direction building off the previous saga. And during that long wait, that proverbial winter, the hype and discussion really did die off a fair bit, only to explode whenever a scrap of news or content was tossed our way. And so coming into that 4th season, people were pretty hyped for the continuation of the story, to see the characters and the world again, only for that season to go down like a lead balloon, with a pretty dull and plodding story where not much of note happened, and a lot of questionable character decisions. And so from what I've seen, that really did do a lot of damage to the show itself, and saw the hype for this season, this latest season, not really reach those same heights that we saw before. I think it was still there, but just not quite as much. And so, like I said, this season had to reverse course, reverse that trend. You don't want consecutive bad seasons, otherwise you run the risk of the show losing its prominence and prestige. After all, there was just so much hype around those early seasons and so much to enjoy, so it would be a damn shame to see it all go to waste and be squandered in the end, wouldn't it? And so, the latest season dropped and it was good. Not the best it could have been in my opinion, but, well, a number of the problems that were present in the previous season were somewhat addressed, and the season did improve as a result. When I was checking in on the post-episode threads after I watched each episode, I did kind of notice there were tons of negative comments just overall, and I'm not really sure if that means the consensus is that this season was bad in general, but in my eyes it was good enough. I think it certainly could have been better, but there was a lot to like, and it certainly had more positive attributes than negative attributes, and so nothing else for it but to start breaking things down. Okay, so last time, my main takeaways from Season 4 was that the character relationships had been wrecked and were not really being explored in a way that makes any sense. The story was slow and plodding with not much happening, and the tone had shifted to become way sillier than it had ever been before, which conflicted heavily with the tone the main story was trying to set. These were the issues that I felt needed to be addressed going forward into Season 5. And we'll start with the characters. This category, I would say, is improving. I mean, last season just had so many problems with the characters and relationships, most specifically in regards to Callum and Rayla. The story very much framed it as Rayla did nothing wrong, and Callum should just get over it, damaging their arc for no gain at all. And I do think that this season did try to backtrack on all of that, and pretend like it never actually happened. Just go back to square one to earn back some of that fan goodwill, but at the same time, it also felt like they wanted to have their cake and eat it too. Because in my eyes, they do kind of double down on the story a couple of times to try to cement their position of Rayla still being sort of justified. First, by having Callum outright tell Rayla she doesn't have to share her secrets with him until she's ready, which is, debatable in my eyes. She has no trust here. Next, she never really gives much of a sincere apology to Callum or to the gang for the bullshit that she pulled, and then they have her try to argue with Auntie Amaya when Amaya unleashes some righteous mama bear rage on her for ditching Callum without a word and breaking his heart for years. She's lucky that's all she got in my opinion. So yeah, to me it felt like they just wanted to breeze over that whole rift in the relationship and quietly shuffle it off to the side, because, well, I know they would have actually had this written prior to the release of Season 4, but they surely would have known, even going into that, even before Season 4 dropped, that whole dynamic was not going to go down well, surely. But yet they still keep their points about Rayla being right and not accepting that she did wrong. Which is, But at the same time, I do think their dynamic improved, and a lot of the dynamics were quite good this season. But that's the problem, they're just good, they're not great. I think a big part of those early seasons was the really strong character building and character dynamics. Here, I just feel like it's a bit lacking. I think we need more, because I'm still not really satisfied with how this storyline's played out. But yeah, it does amuse me that it seems like they just want to breeze past it and move on. Can't say I really blame them, all things considered, but there you go. But that's not the only character dynamic that I think needed work when all was said and done, because another one of my big complaints was the whole Soren, Viren, Claudia dynamic. It went fully to waste last season. They even had a scene where they were all there, and it just cuts away. It doesn't show much, and it's just, pathetic. And this season, not really much to say about it, if I'm being honest. They didn't share much screen time, so... But that being said, I did enjoy how they continued to flesh out Terry and Claudia. Very wholesome, building up to a big moment where I think she's going to let him down completely, and maybe even put him in severe danger. Perhaps that will lead into her redemption from being evil. And at the same time, they also showed Viren's true deep down feelings about his children and the love he has for them, and how that really defined what he did in those early seasons. And I actually thought that whilst his story was very slow and plotting at times, and could have been sped up a bit, it was actually very compelling too. And just, yeah, all the romantic and family dynamics, they were much improved. They could be better, but nothing stood out to me as being openly bad, you know? Which brings me to the story. It was better. I'll be honest, much better. We have our three main story beats. There's Claudia trying to save her dad by freeing Erebos. There's the gang trying to catch up with them. And then there's the Sun Elf plot that last time made me want to switch off. Now this time, we got a true adventure. A story that felt reminiscent of the early seasons or of Avatar: The Last Airbender. Our heroes are traveling from place to place, meeting new characters and going on quests as they try to track down the location of Erebos' prison to stop him from being released, and also find a way to kill him. They go from the kingdom of Katalis, pretty much on a world tour, all in pursuit of Erebos' prison and finding the means to fight him. And all the while, they have some self-contained adventures in the fallen city of the Sun Elves at the Booktorium, or in the pirate town where they steal the glow tadpoles. It just works well. And it flows well. And it actually feels like there's a story being told here. Both an overarching story and minor story arcs too. And each of them was interesting and engaging and showcased the characters in various different ways, as opposed to last season, where it felt like they spent forever in that goddamn forest, and then poof, it was the end of the season, with hardly any story and hardly any growth for the characters. Here they actually do quite a lot. Do. Forgive me. And so whilst I kind of felt like the season was too short and I still wanted a lot more, I don't think I felt ripped off with the lack of story. And at the same time, I feel like all our heroes got their own big character moments, their own big story moments. Their chance to shine as a character and do cool things. Even Soren did. Just a great season all round in that regard. And honestly, I especially love the pirate town and the whole high seas adventure arc. Especially Callum using dark magic again. Slowly getting darker and darker. I'm a sucker for that sort of stuff, and it was just excellently done. Very well done. And meanwhile, I did enjoy the Viren stuff too, but it also felt really dragged out, you know what I mean? Like Claudia and Terry paddling down the river, numerous episodes, hiding from the dragon, while she continually just gets upset about her dad and lashes out at Terry over and over again, and then he fixes things. You know, it got old pretty fast. But on the bright side, the Sun Elf storyline, yes, it was de-emphasized, thank goodness. And it was given less screen time, so that means when you see them, there's more chance of something actually happening. And that's what we got. It was decent. Prince Kareem, he literally sucked so hard last season. Literal ass. Completely unwatchable. But here his story was actually good. Kind of sympathetic at first, losing his mother's ring, until he starts to get back to his old bullshit and unleashes some chaos, before finishing up with the epic cliffhanger, where he actually kind of wins. His girlfriend steals the Sunseed and brings him an army. That's some couple goals right there, I guess. But regardless of all of that, I also felt that there was a massive tonal shift between this season and last season, and that's a good thing. Like, this season just feels darker, feels grittier. It actually feels like there's a massive world-ending threat looming on the horizon, and our characters have to face it. Yeah, they get sidetracked from time to time, but that's the kind of thing that they do in a show like this. They did that kind of shit in Avatar as well. But what this season did was less stupid jokes, less quips, and a little bit more maturity. It addresses darker topics in more depth. There's numerous characters and creatures straight up getting killed. Hell, I mean, that assassin that lays waste to the guards and uses telekinesis to shoot that dude in the face with his own arrow? Yikes. Talk about hardcore right there. And yeah, I mean, it wasn't absurd, grimdark sort of stuff, and shouldn't be. And it didn't change the makeup of the show to something too mature, but I think it was a good change of pace that suits the direction in which the story seems to be heading. It strikes that nice balance. I mean, I think the only real problem overall that I had that was just bad is that once again, whilst we had a lot of content, it lacked substance. And so it's noticeable that the story hasn't really gone anywhere. Viren's still dying. Erebos is not free. Kareem's right back to where he was at the start. Callum and Rayla are sort of just dancing around each other and nothing's changed. And so once again, 2 seasons into this new arc, and nothing's really happened yet. It's all just the calm before the storm sort of deal, and I don't know. It's not really compelling in that way. I think they really need to up the pace of the main story. And so, yeah, there's not really much else to say. That's the end of the review, end of the video. And I would like to say that these are just my opinions, and I'd like to hear yours. What did you think of the latest season of Dragon Prince? You like it, hate it? I'm curious for your thoughts, so make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and let me know.